Let's have a conversation about stories. There is power in your story, power that can positively impact another person in ways you may never know. At Inspired Woman, the stories people share help change lives every day. I'm Marcy Narum, and this is Inspired Woman Conversations.
After 3 years and representing artists from all over the world, the Capitol Gallery is a nonprofit organization that has set out to celebrate history, art, and culture and provide community programs. We have locations in downtown Bismarck, Fargo, and Medora. For more information on how to host your next event here, our artist representation, as well as being invited to our exclusive events, visit us online at thecapitolgallery.com, Facebook, and Instagram.
We're talking today about something that you may not have heard of, dysautonomia. I'm Marcy Narum. Welcome to Inspired Woman Conversations. My guests today are three women who know very well about dysautonomia, and this is an opportunity for them to share their stories. And I want to thank you for being here. So my guests from left to right, we have Laura Taylor and Ashten Anhorn and Jami Benz. Thank you so much, ladies, for being here today and being willing to talk about your experiences and sharing your stories. So,
yes.
Jami, can you start with
Definitely.
what you know about dysautonomia?
So dysautonomia is a very hard word for most people to say. It's a dysfunction of the autonomic nervous system. So if you break the word down, dysautonomia is talking about the autonomics not working right. What are the autonomics? Everything you don't think about, right, ladies?
Yes.
So it is pupils dilating at the wrong time. It is breathing, temperatures. Your body normally adjusts. A normal person's body will adjust to all different types of temperatures. Your autonomics do that automatically for you. Digestion, you don't think I have to digest my food, but this is all done within your body without you knowing it. Well, for people with dysautonomia, they have a glitch in that system, and that's what I call it. So there's going to be different symptoms for everybody. No one person is the same. It can be up to 60 different symptoms. And they all fall under the big umbrella term is dysautonomia. And then there's little branches underneath of it that can be different for everyone.
And how do you know so much about it?
Right. So our daughter was a huge athletic person her whole life, from kindergarten on, huge into basketball. We didn't think much about it until she got into more of the aggression with other girls on the team. And she went up for a layup one time in a basketball game and took a fall into a brick wall and had her first concussion. And then that was 6th grade year. 2 years later in 8th grade, she was back in the game. She had been playing all along, but we noticed little things. And 2 years later, she took a full body check on the court, just laid there. It was fine. She didn't hit her head. And sportsmen assessed that she was perfectly fine to go back in the game. And we asked she remain out. And 2 days later, she started blacking out. So her blackouts would last 20 minutes at a time. Completely laying there unconscious. She would faint, go down, lay unconscious 20 minutes. School would call me. I would take over and sit with her, hold her hand, asking, Savannah, when you're with me, squeeze my hand, let me know you're with me. Went doctor after doctor after doctor, straight to ER, because as a mom, your kid's not conscious. You're thinking, first thing I think of is it's her heart. She must have a heart condition because maybe her blood's not flowing right. Her heart rate would drop really low or spike really high and go into what's a tachycardia, where it's just going to town and beating quite fast. But no doctors had an answer. They said it's hormones. It's a growth spurt. Sure, it could be the concussion, which I knew from the concussion something triggered all of this. But, and it's syncope. Syncope is fainting. So after 50-some appointments, ER visits included, and no one can give us an answer, I self-referred to Mayo. And that's where we learned it's dysautonomia. It was triggered from the concussion.
Okay, so we know that one was triggered from concussion, and we'll come back and talk some more. But Ashten, what's your experience?
Well, throughout elementary school and middle school, I had 4 to 5 concussions from like soccer and just like recess and like stuff like that. And then in May of 2011, I fainted for the first time. I'd been sick with strep. We don't know if that's a cause or not, but and then from there just came all the POTS symptoms and everything from. That's the only first time I ever passed out, but yeah, just symptoms from 2011 until 2018-ish.
So, and she mentioned POTS. POTS is postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome.
Okay,
So that is under the umbrella of dysautonomia.
gotcha.
So we can talk about that
Yeah.
later. But
I'm glad you mentioned that because I
yeah,
was wondering about that. Okay, and is it something that is it managed, or is there medication, or how
Well,
do
I
you?
got my diagnosis of POTS in 2017, and then from there, symptoms just kind of started getting worse. And then in 2018, I went to Midwest Functional Neurology, where I went through a week-long intensive treatment that changed my life for the best.
okay.
And to this day, I'm doing really good.
And you go to the Bismarck State College? What are you studying?
I'm studying social work and addiction studies.
Okay, good. Thank you. Laura.
I have hyperadrenergic POTS. We'll just throw some more complicated words. Hyperadrenergic means I have a it's like norepinephrine, so my flight or fight, it surges.
Okay.
And so with my type of POTS, when I stand up, my blood pressure rises and doesn't fall. And so off of POTS, there's even another branch, and that's the branch I have. I'm a stay-at-home mom to 3 girls, and my symptoms started after I had my middle daughter, my second. I started getting migraines. I've had headaches, but I'd never had migraines, and so I started having migraines. And then I had my third daughter, and while I was pregnant with her, I had my first blackout where I was feeding my girls lunch and I just blacked out in the kitchen. And so I went to the doctors and they just said, oh, your brain's just not getting enough oxygen. It's probably due to your pregnancy. And so after I had my daughter, like more symptoms, I saw the migraines and the headaches. And then I started having like heart palpitations and like I was short of breath for no reason, like just standing there. And they started increasing after I had the Epstein-Barr virus and everything. Like for 4 months, I was pretty much, and that wasn't bedridden, but I was couch-ridden and trying to raise 3 girls and to be a wife. And so as I went on, I ended up seeing, in 2018, I saw 16 doctors and specialists in Bismarck. And then I ended up at Mayo, and that's where I finally got my diagnosis to understand what I was dealing with. Like, I was told I was like a fainting goat. Like, I would get startled, and maybe that's why you passed out. And then I was told I was slender, and that's probably why I could just feel my heart, because I was slender.
Oh.
And I was told I had anxiety, which, granted, there are aspects of anxiety that go along with having this.
Sure.
But so I was told that, and then the worst was when I was in the ER, they told me it was psychological.
And that happens a ton. So the main reason we wanted to have the conversation with you is to spread the awareness that our daughter has learned, was sitting me by a doctor telling her she has been told she has an eating disorder because, again, autonomics don't always digest food, so she'll get extreme intense side aches, okay? So they're like, I think she just has an eating disorder. And this was at Mayo saying that to us.
Okay.
So you trust, right? Well, then we were also told it's a conversion disorder. That means it's psychological, that maybe she's just working herself up. We've had numerous people say, does she like school? Does she like her teachers? She is a kid she had 0 anxiety before any of this started. The most calm kid. But you begin to feel like we've all talked, you begin to feel, and as her mom looking in, saying, no, this isn't my kid. I know she doesn't have an eating disorder. You don't know anything about dysautonomia, obviously. But all these labels are put at you, and you begin to feel crazy.
I felt like I was going nuts. I felt like I was going insane.
Right? Because you can't get a true, what is this exactly? And it was Mayo that gave us our diagnosis too. When you find the right doctor, a lot of doctors don't even know this at Mayo. So you have to find the right doctor, and then they kind of explain it, and we start doing our own research. So
That's what I find really interesting is that none of you have said, my doctor here in Bismarck, you've been elsewhere. Mayo and Midwest.
Well, I got diagnosed by a children's neurologist,
Okay.
and then I went to my
in Bismarck.
from Fargo, but he
From
comes to
Fargo.
Bismarck.
Okay.
And then my new primary doctor, Byron Baker, was the one who further got the tests and referrals and whatnot to.
It's something you have to do a lot of research on your own. Like when I was didn't know how to say dysautonomia. I was like, hyper-edger, what? So you had to just delve feet first into just figuring, what does all this mean? How does this relate to me? To try to make sense of it, because no offense to doctors, the doctors didn't know either. It was kind of like, I don't know.
And the big thing is that we voice to our doctors is, if you don't know, just say you don't know. Because as the patient sitting there hearing, you might have an eating disorder, you might just have anxiety, you start feeling literally like you're going crazy, because you're like, no one believes me. I know none of this is true, but something's happening in my body.
So how do you know that's what it is? I mean, is there a blood test, or how do they come up with?
I had the autonomic testing at Mayo, so there's a tilt table test. I had a thermal regulatory sweat test, where they put me in a sweat chamber. I have autonomic neuropathy, so 89% of my body doesn't sweat. And so for me, heat is a big trigger for me. And then I had a catecholamine test, where it's a blood test with sitting and standing. So they run a range of tests at Mayo. Those are the tests I had.
And doctors will do a poor man's tilt table test, where they'll lay you down on the table, sit you up, stand you up. That's kind of a normal thing to watch your blood pressure changing. But the tilt table does all that for you. It actually tilts you to certain,
And you're hooked up a blood pressure. I had a blood pressure cuff on my finger and then on my arm, and they make you breathe. So they're watching what your heart rate's doing, what your blood pressure is doing, all the while you're going on a ride. The sweat test was the worst.
Yeah.
That was horrible.
And so what's happening with Savannah now?
She is doing much better. So she was, our journey has been 2.5 years, and that first 20-minute blackouts, and last year the blackouts were 30 seconds to 5 minutes. However, that's just the unconscious part. And to be able to, you have to lay down to get the blood to your head if you want to avoid a faint. Okay, so she feels lightheaded. She gets to the floor, lays down, lets the blood get to her head, hopefully stays conscious, and then to be able to sit because you don't feel too lightheaded, and then to be able to stand and return to class or whatever you're doing. So this year, she's probably only had a total of 3 incidences. So we've gone from 20-minute blackouts to, she used to have 2 to 3 a day, and now we've had 3 all school year pretty much. So
How does that impact a teenager? And I mean, you were dealing with that too.
You can speak from the heart, girl. Right?
Well, throughout high school it got really hard because I was in 8 class periods a day, just constantly going. And my junior and senior year I missed a lot of school. And my senior year I missed so much school, but I was still able to graduate early. So that really helped. So then I didn't have that semester where I was just so miserable pretty much.
It very much impacts anybody, I feel like, to the point that people think it's made up, or some people had thought, maybe does she need attention? Maybe, again, it goes back to being unaware that this is a truly medical condition that people deal with. And we've learned so much, and I wish we wouldn't have learned all this, but if we needed to take this journey, we're taking it with people who are enduring it. hoping to advocate to everybody. So
You can catch weekly episodes. Just follow us on Facebook, Instagram TV, subscribe to our YouTube channel, or check us out online at inspiredwomanonline.com. I hope to see you there.